Okay, I know that I might have had some offbeat ideas in the past, but this one's going to nail it.
Wait, Rich, hold on. This isn't Sasquatch 2 Electric Boogaloo, right? 'Cause I told you that's a bad idea.
No, of course I wouldn't come back with that. Now I got some real stuff behind me. What is the Exorcist series missing? A big, big, big star like Whoopi Goldberg. So what we do is, ready for this? The Exorcister Act.
I like it. The franchise possibilities are huge. We can have so many things. T-shirts, soundtracks. I like it.
Absolutely.
Both of you get out.
Now we get to do what I like to call the cream of the crap.
Sequels, Volume 2, the dislikes list.
All right, because for every good sequel, there's got to be a bad one out there. It's just the yin and the yang of film. It's just the way it works. Okay, so unlike the pure stress that I had to go through in terms of the likes, this was actually easy because there's many a bad sequel, but what it comes down to, there's just some that are just unforgivable across the board.
Yep.
And I'm actually going to start it out with Halloween Ends, which out of all the shitty David Gordon Green Halloween movies, Halloween Ends is just inexcusable across the board. And I am still shocked that a group of people sat in a room and said, this is the sequel we're going to make. This is what we're going to do. We're going to make a movie where Michael Myers is in it for a total of 22 minutes. That's what our audience, who has paid so much money in the previous ventures, that's what they want to see. And I remember watching it in the theater going, you can't tell me this is the whole movie. Then I'm like, we've been with this character for a long time. We've had no Michael Myers. And then 35 minutes into the movie, he finally shows up for a moment, and then he disappears again. And I've had the arguments with people. I've had the keyboard warrior moments of people saying, oh, well, Halloween 3. It's like, no. Not even in the same ballpark, because there's not a single trailer of Halloween 3 that it is given or implied that Michael Myers is a key part of that storyline. Not at all. And here he takes a backseat to a depressed college student. It's the most ridiculous and, again, inexcusable. There's just no reason for it. And then they were shocked when it didn't do well, when it got hate from the fan base. And it's just easily one of the worst sequels ever made. Easily.
Man, do I agree with you? And to make the choice easier for everyone who didn't see it, we can do that scale thing. So you've got here the epitome of evil, and here a depressed college student.
Corey.
Yeah,
that's his name.
So
Corey.
that's right on the edge there. I mean, come on, it's just, and I really thought that Halloween Kills pissed me off, which, by the way, it did. But I thought I was pissed off at the end of that one because Michael and Laurie aren't in the same scene at any point. And yet they're the, and so when I got out of the theater, besides having scratched my head raw, I sat there and I went, well, at least this guarantees that the last one will be something, because this was nothing. And boy, was I wrong. Boy, was I wrong.
It was so funny. There was a guy sitting in front of me at the theater when we were watching it. And when it got to the ludicrous funeral procession at the end of the movie,
yes,
he audibly said, to where everyone could hear it, this is some bullshit. And he got up and he left. He was like, you know what? You've wasted enough of my time. I am not watching the rest of this directly.
Yeah, I'm not giving you that 2 minutes. I'm just not
doing
it's like,
it. I'm giving you too much as it is. And it's just, I think it's further proof that they had no idea where they were going to take anything.
Right.
I think they did 2018 and they had no intentions on 3 movies. It made a shit ton of money. And they went back to Green and said, hey, let's do a trilogy. What can you come up with? And they just had no clear idea, because you can't tell me they were sitting there going, you know what I want to do? I want to make a Michael Myers movie where Michael Myers is barely in the movie. That's what I want to do.
Yep.
I just see how that happened. I don't see how those conversations happen.
I want to do a semi-adequate job in the first one. I want to make sure that there's no conflict in the middle one, and I want to make sure that Michael Myers isn't really a part of the third one. That's what we want to do here, folks. There's the key to success.
See, and I know Green is just that type of filmmaker. You know, he's like David Lynch light when it comes to his characters. He just likes weird characters, and I get it. It's fine.
David Lynch light.
But
oh my God,
but you cannot. I know. How would you like that on your tombstone?
I'm walking away with that one. I will use that. I will steal that outright from you. I will use that a shit ton.
You're like, peruse my columns in the future, Rick, because you're going to see that in there somewhere.
Absolutely.
But
that's great.
When you expect me to believe that a grown man is going to get accosted outside of a fucking liquor store by not just a bunch of wayward teens, but a bunch of wayward band member teens. No, this is stupid. This is ridiculous.
Yep.
If some punk kid came up to me saying, you're going to go buy me some beer, I'd be like, step the fuck off. But this guy is intimidated by these kids.
Right.
And I'm like, how on paper, how did that look good to anyone? How did people not laugh their ass off? But I still want to know how they sat in the screening room and the lights go up. You're telling me people turned around and said, oh, yeah, this is a $200 million movie for us all day long.
I would have been the one hanging. I would have been the one hanging by the neck from the rafters. I would have taken myself out.
Like Airplane, when you see, see the legs in the background.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would have taken myself out. If I had any part of a decision, even a 0.5% part of the decision to go ahead to greenlight that idea, that would have been it. I would have said, you know what? You don't have to ban me. I'm out. Bye.
The only thing I can think of is it goes to speak of the Blumhouse economic system of film production. Going back to a much better sequel, Evil Dead 2, there was a moment on Evil Dead 2 that Robert Tapert came onto the set, told everyone to relax, just make your movie, because they had pre-sold it to multiple distribution arms to where they were already in the profit. So it was a situation of no worry about, oh God, we're over budget. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe they are guaranteed to make so much money on this thing that they just let directors do whatever the fuck they want. No matter how bad it is, they're like, it's okay. We're going to make our money. It's not a big deal, because they're producing them for so little. That's all I can figure, because I don't see how this could have got. There's a particular person. I'm not going to say their name. If you're in the horror community, you know this guy's name. He was a podcaster, and then suddenly he's an executive for Blumhouse. And I remember being so excited, thinking he's one of us. He's going to go in and he's going to produce some great movies. I don't know how this man who loves Halloween so much could sit in the same room with these people and not just go crazy. How could you not? It's like, how could you not look at everyone and go, you realize this is stupid, right? Do you not realize how bad of an idea this is?
That's because he didn't truly love Halloween as much as he said. I'm sorry, but that's just the deal. I mean, you don't take a crap on something that you love that much. You say respectfully, I'm out. I can't get behind this project. Love you guys. Believe in you. Not for this flick. Bye.
Good luck.
Yeah. I mean, we could forget one show. We could probably do 2 or 3 shows on how absolutely abysmal the decisions made in this, to the point where you're looking back at roughly 4.5, 5 hours worth of film being shot. And the only thing anybody wants to talk about is the wonderful job they did with Sam Loomis.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, there's nothing else you can really say about those movies.
and then you wonder how the people who came up with that crap pile actually managed to have that moment of clarity and pull off, in my opinion, what was damn near impossible. And giving us Sam Loomis again.
If Green and his crew had any sense, what they should have done was, once they saw the footage from part 2, since they're obviously letting you do whatever the fuck you want anyways, I would have been like, we're restructuring. The entire film takes place in 1982. We're going to shoot it in this fashion. That's where we're going. So you're just going to rip off the movie? Absolutely, but it's going to look great. It's going to be entertaining, and it's going to feel like Halloween as opposed to what we got here.
Well, okay.
And I know you find there's a lot of people who argue that this movie's amazing. They do. They die on the hill of Halloween. Halloween Ends. And I don't think they're true fans of the film. And again, that's not a gatekeeping comment. It's, how can you feel that this stands anywhere toe-to-toe with Carpenter's original or even the lesser sequels?
Right.
I just don't see how.
And I would agree with you on that. But also you need to keep in mind that age and where you are and where you were when you saw it does play into it. I mean, you've got a lot of memories of videotaped 80s movies, because that's how you did it. You did that in your living room with your mom, with, people that you cared about. And your love of those movies has something to do with the fact of you popping a tape in the machine. Mine has to do with me going to the theater. It doesn't make my experience. No, it doesn't make my love for the movies any different. It makes the experience different and where I was when it happened. And I was talking to somebody the other day. In fact, Anthony, I said, nobody can tell me that the horror of Party Beach is worthless, because I saw it in the theater and I absolutely loved it as a kid, and it actually scared me a little bit. Now, I don't expect anybody else to have that experience, but if somebody says, Horror of Party Beach was the worst movie ever made, I'm like, well, no. How about the movies that nobody gives a fuck about shooting, like the Halloween, the last Halloween trilogy? I'll take Horror of Party Beach over that any time, because the people were, Del Tenney was trying to make a relevant horror movie with rock and roll, the beach, and monsters. I'm not saying it was good. What I'm saying is I loved the experience of seeing it, and you're not going to talk me out of that any more than I could talk you out of something that you had that personal experience with. So if somebody went to see the Halloween trilogy and it was their first, let's say they had just had their 13th birthday and they were taken to the theater and saw one of them, I understand that they're going to have mad love for it. I get it. But to those of us on Earth One, God damn, that thing was horrible. All three of them together. If one had stood on its own, it would have just been a bad sequel. I'm sorry, a bad remake. But lumped with the other two, it turns it just into a clusterfuck. So anyway.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, man. Absolutely.
Yep.
And what's really amazing is sometimes people overthink these things.
Right.
It's happening with Friday the 13th, for example. Everyone's like, well, how do we crack it? How do we split the atom on this thing? How do we figure out what does a new Friday the 13th movie look like? It's like, it's a dude in a hockey mask. You're going to have him show up and you're going to have him kill people. That's the storyline.
Yep.
Don't overthink it. Don't get stupid.
Yep.
I would have rather had 90 minutes of Michael Myers with zero explanation of how he's back, literally taking out people within a 2-hour period, a real, real time movie, if you will. And that would have been more enjoyable than the direct they put out there.
Yep.
Because in essence, you at least get the bare minimum of why you like a Halloween film.
Yeah.
If you want to put aside good acting or everything else, you still got this shark. You got Michael Myers, and he's just not going to stop until he gets you.
Right.
Which is truly the most terrifying thing about that, anyways. When you're a kid watching these movies, is the thought of someone you can't stop, and he's just coming at you, and he's going to go through doors, and no matter how many times you shoot him, he's going to get right back up. Just give me that. Give me one note linear stuff at that point, But to come up with these ridiculous characters and Lori,
it was just
destroy
horrible.
A character like that.
Yeah,
I thought she was bad in the first two, but then to have her in this one, playing Molly Homemaker and writing a book about her experiences and flirting with the town sheriff that she was in love with years earlier, it's like, are you kidding me?
I know.
For an actress who claims she cares about that character so much, and she was on the film as a producer, why didn't she step in? This isn't a happy ending for her character.
And I know that she was actively involved in it. It wasn't just a credit.
Yeah.
So it's again, head scratching. It's just, that's what I'm left with.
Yeah. I think the best thing we can say about it is that Green is not going to be attached to any other horror projects, especially after another horrible sequel that should have ended up on my list, Exorcist Believer. So that's at least something to take from the experience.
So if nothing else, we should take this moment and wave goodbye to him. Goodbye.
Enjoy your art films, David.
Bye.
Yeah. It's so weird, though, the way people appreciated these movies. And I get what you're saying, the whole thing, if this is your first Halloween, it's going to hit you. But it seemed like a snake oil salesman is the way it felt. I knew so many people who I share their love of film. And I'm like, why did you like that? Well, because it was fun. It's like, but it was stupid. It was stupid in the worst kind of way.
Yeah, it wasn't even
I remember
fun.
seeing 2018. I saw it with my son, my oldest son, and I saw it with my buddy Jody. And I thought they could tell from my shifting in the chair that I was fucking pissed at this movie. And we came out of the theater, and they were shocked. They were like, "You didn't like it?" I'm like, "No, I didn't like it." I'm like, my son, I'm like, "Okay, you're younger. I get it." I'm like, "Dude, you're my age. How can you like that movie? I don't get it." He's like, "Oh, well, it was cool. You got it." It was the fact that they got to see him, and somehow it circumvented good storytelling. It's like, well, we saw him, and I'm like, okay.
I remember this. I remember that.
You go to a convention and see a lot of them.
Yeah, exactly.
They came home from the theater, and oh my god, just the air between them was so heated. He was just like, the ride home was.
Oh, that must have been great. Yeah.
Because these things are important to me, and they're just like, oh, it was good.
Yep. All right. So as far as dislikes go, this is a sore subject with me. What about this bad boy, Escape from LA?
Oh, yeah.
I want to point out it has a used DVD store thing because I wouldn't frickin' pay full price for this piece of crap. Okay, so we have the impossible situation. It's about 15 years later. You want to do a sequel, and here's the best part. Your star looks like he aged about 4.5 months. So you've got basically gold. Kurt Russell isn't coming out looking like Harry Dean Stanton. He looks like Kurt Russell from the Escape from New York. Movie was well received. Everything's peachy keen. Some people call it one of the highlights of your career. So what do? You make an absolutely garbage sequel called Escape from LA And while I completely understand, because I've tried to escape LA many times, the truth of the matter is we're not talking about a walled prison, New York, dark or anything. We're talking about LA, and they make the creative choices of things like Peter Fonda riding a wave that's coming down the city street on a surfboard, and all stupid shit like that. In plain words, they send up the first one. And with very few exceptions, when you make fun of the first one and basically say, we're sending it up, what does that say about the first one? We shouldn't take that seriously. I just don't know what the deal is. I could come up with bad things to say, but the truth is it's too freaking easy. This movie is shockingly bad. It rips off the first one at times, and when it's not ripping off the first one, I think it's spitting on it. That's the two things that they do. So
That, yeah, I agree. And what's really funny is, remember stories that people had about the Phantom Menace that they went to see it a second time, thinking somehow they missed something?
Yeah,
I did that with Escape from LA. I was like, I'm gonna maybe I was in a bad mood, and I'm
right.
just like this. I don't know what they were thinking, and I find it very funny that. Do you remember a movie called Lockdown that came out with Guy Pearce about 7-8 years ago?
Yeah, I do.
It was a science fiction movie produced by Luc Besson, who did The Fifth Element.
Yep.
He was sued by John Carpenter for ripping off Escape from New York, and he fucking won in court, which bothered me. Because I'm like, but you fucking ripped yourself off for Escape from LA, and you did it badly.
Right.
At least Lockdown was entertaining. And
Right.
they had gold with Kurt Russell.
Yep.
Seemed like he literally just stepped off the set of the original.
And it's
Amazing
15 years or so later. I can't remember the exact
He still fit into the costume. That is the same costume at the beginning of that movie.
Right. So I don't know what director does with a star that has clearly inked a deal with the devil not to age. But this is not what you do. This is the opposite of what you do. God, this could have been an amazing sequel, one that we talked about on the other show. Just fantastic.
I remember reading, and it could have been Cinefantastique, that essentially it was a situation where they saw literally an opportunity to make money on the property, because apparently Embassy Pictures had kind of left them out of the profit margins. So they really did have an opportunity to do something great, and they just rushed it. They knew it had to be out by a certain time, and they just moved forward. And it was just a horrible mistake. Because you're right, it's a parody practically of the original movie.
Yep.
The effects are dreadful. The digital effects, just so primitive, even for its time. In 1995, was it 95 that it came out?
Yeah, I think so.
The only thing I can say about it is I really love the redo of the original theme. That I enjoyed quite a bit.
Right. Yeah, this says 96.
And it was a score co-done with Shirley Walker, who had composed Carpenter's Memoirs of an Invisible Man.
Right.
But that adds to kind of the erraticness of the movie, because you go from Carpenter style music to this really crazy sweeping orchestral, the dun 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 dun. It's like, it's not even Snake's theme, but okay.
It's one of those ones that I keep trying to come up with something to say, and it would be better if I just kept my mouth shut. But the people at home want to know this, or at least I'm assuming they do if they're tuning in. So,
I mean, for people who have discovered John Carpenter recently due to whatever films, I mean, look at it, because I've always been of the opinion, if you're going to look at a director's work, you look at everything. and it's how you learn their work. It's how you learn how they are as artists. And this was the period where Carpenter as an artist became, I don't know,
neutered.
yeah, I guess, maybe just so cynical at that point that he's like, I'm going to make the money where I can. And that's what they decided to do. I don't think it's something that Kurt would do again. I think if he had the opportunity, he would be like, yeah, let's not do that Escape from LA thing. Well, if we're going to do it, let's do it with a better script.
If we're going to do it, let's do it right. Absolutely.
And sadly, it was the last time that Deborah Hill and Carpenter worked on a project together.
Yep. Well, that would do it.
It's like, you know what? I thought I wanted to work with you again. No, I'm good.
It's just such a shame. And the kicker is, to me at least, the Kurt Russell not aging is such a big part of it, because you could do this. You could do basically the same day, like you just said, like he walked out of the set of New York and did the LA movie. If they had to go through, it's been 18 years and Snake was beaten so badly that he looks like another actor now, that'd be fine. Okay, it's bad enough, but but to have him not age, I know I'm harping on it, but the truth is, it's such a waste. It really is.
Yeah, it's one of those times. It's like certain actors who get so pretentious about playing a recurring character, and then they go and do a dozen shitty movies. It's
Right.
like, why couldn't you just come off your high horse and do the things that your fan base was enjoying? I get it. You want to be stretched as an artist, but if you're doing quality work, does it matter that you're playing that same character again? No. And I think if they had done a good movie with Escape from LA, it would have made money, and we could have had 3 or 4 different Snake Plissken adventures.
Right. Well, the living embodiment of that is that you don't have to get stale is Clint Eastwood and Cowboys.
Yeah, he kept making them.
And nails each one of them. They're great. He's great in them. And if it's the same, even if it's the same exact character, you can stretch the character in the next movie. We were talking about Ash. Ash changes, from throughout the Evil Dead franchise. He changes and they run with it. So they could have done numerous things, and they didn't even have to change Kurt Russell. So
right. Well, because he was such a Snake Plissken is the perfect archetype of an anti-hero.
Yep.
And you can even see it in the original Escape from New York. He doesn't hate everyone. He hates mostly everybody. But every once in a while, there's people that I'm like, all right, I can deal with you. I might even be able to get close to you in some way, shape, or form.
Right.
And you see that. How great would that have been to see that in other movies? And the older he became, the more he did start to care for people. Very much like a Mad Max situation.
Right. Yep.
They could have done something like that.
Absolutely.
And again, I think Carpenter's, cynicism. I think he was bitter about the fact that his career went into directions he wasn't expecting. But to be honest, he chose those decisions too.
Absolutely.
I still think it's hilarious that he was offered movies like Top Gun. It's like, so he could have branched out. He could have done some other stuff. And then it got to the point where, okay, crap, no one wants to hire me now. But now the studio says, hey, we want to do an Escape from LA. And he's like, well, okay, I'll make some cash and this is what we'll do. So.
Yeah. But, it's difficult. It's difficult to watch a bad sequel and not think of the original.
Yeah. So, especially with such iconic characters like Snake Plissken.
Right. So part of my creative soul cries whenever Escape from New York is on, because I still have the impact of Escape from LA. And it's
because the story doesn't end. It goes on with Snake getting picked up again, and this is what happens.
yeah, it just could have been better. And I understand that some of these devolve into it could have been better, it could have been better, it could have been better, but it's the truth. It actually could have been a great sequel, and they chose just to remake it shittier.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they were going with that mentality of, well, if we don't do it now, they're probably not going to let us do it a year from now.
Yeah.
And that's not the reason to make a movie. I mean, I guess financially it may be for you, but in terms of making a movie that's going to stand the test of time and stand next to your previous film, it's not the confines to make a film.
Absolutely not. You're exactly right.
All right. Mine is a cheat once again, for the simple fact that out of all the horror franchises, this has the record, in my opinion, of the worst amount of sequels. Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I am including Texas Chainsaw 3D,
Okay.
Texas Chainsaw The Next Generation, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre spin-off reboot that aired on Netflix in 2022, and the one simply called Leatherface, not Chainsaw 3, but the other Leatherface. And the reason I've lumped all these together is they're just, again, atrocious movies. Movies that I don't know how people who wrote it, especially, like, for example, Texas Chainsaw 3D, they swore up and down, what? This is a direct sequel to the original Tobe Hooper film. And none of it logically can be a direct sequel. Alexandria Daddario, fine, beautiful chick, whatever. But it is impossible for her to be a baby at the end of the original Chainsaw Massacre. The timelines don't mesh. It doesn't make any sense. They have cell phones in this movie.
Are you
She would be in
saying
her
that
40s.
Are you saying that there's a logic fuck up there in
Huge,
movies?
immense. But it's okay though. You know why? They covered it. They made sure when she went to her grandmother's grave, there's a leaf floating right at the year that she died. So it's okay. We don't know what year we're in, even to know it's obvious if you've seen Texas Chainsaw Massacre when that movie takes place.
Yeah.
And just that entire movie, it's a bad slasher movie, and it's just further ruining everything that Tobe did in the original movie and in part 2. Even part 3 is still a Chainsaw Massacre movie. It is doing its best to stick to the lore. And the other movies in the series, Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation, which was originally titled Return of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which is a better title, still a shitty movie, but
yeah. Oh boy.
That was written and directed by Kim Henkel, who co-wrote the original fucking movie.
Exactly. No
So
excuse to fuck it up.
I bought a bootleg of that movie, hyped. And this was on bootleg VHS, and I'm like, this is going to be amazing. And I'm watching it, I'm like, this is bad. This is really bad. Of course, so bad that Renee Zellweger tried to sue for the movie not to come out.
Which is funny because I tried to sue her because she did it. But
and your lawyer's like, I think we got a case.
Yeah, you had to sit through this? Yes. Yeah, we can get this. We can do this. So yeah.
But between Chainsaw 3D, that, and Leatherface, they all seem to be made by people who didn't understand the original film and just couldn't even go back and do research to say, this is what we need to do. Leatherface, for God's sakes, turns into a bad mystery of who's going to be Leatherface. Because it's a prequel with a bunch of kids and an angry Stephen Dorff running around. That's what the whole movie is. And at the end, the mystery of this is going to be Leatherface, it's like no one gives a shit. No one cares because I didn't care about these characters throughout the whole movie.
Right.
So don't try to, go, da-da, this guy's going to be Leatherface. I don't care. And then you have the Netflix movie, which they couldn't decide what that was. It's like, oh, it's a reboot or it's kind of a remake. It's what it is. And it's the same situation. It's people who don't understand the dynamic of what made that original film so good.
Right.
They don't understand that when Hooper made that movie, he was having his own, Romero-like commentary on the world at that present time. And they keep thinking they're doing that here, especially in the 2022 one, with, basically going into a small town and degentrifying it and turning it into, a yuppie sort of hippie, or yuppie rather, subdivision. And it's just
Right.
none of it works. None of it is scary. None of it is interesting. It's got the worst mask of the series. All these movies have the worst of the masks, easily.
Yes.
And the mask in 1, 2, and 3, wonderful, terrifying. And these other ones, they're like, oh, we're going to make it realistic because Leatherface, he's kind of pop-darted, right? So can he really craft a mask? We'll just cut a bunch of stuff together and there. It looks like bologna on the face is what it looks like.
Right.
And it's just remarkable to me that when you look at the entire franchise, if you compared it to Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween even, before David Gordon Green got involved, a good portion of those movies, you can still watch them. They're very watchable. Even Nightmare on Elm Street, even if it's not the greatest, like Part 5, it's not the greatest, but I'm not like, holy crap, I can't watch this. It's
Right.
still got a lot of great moments. It's got Robert being Robert.
Right.
You always have the solid performance of him. But in Chainsaw, it's a train wreck. There's just messes everywhere. There's no continuity to anything. So when they make the movie, it's just kind of like they tell everybody, well, just do your thing. Do whatever you want. Which is one of the worst lines, by the way, from Texas Chainsaw 3D, when she gives him the chainsaw and says, do your thing, cuz.
Yeah.
I think that was the moment I was like, this is going to go down as one of the worst horror sequels ever made.
Well, you were right.
Yeah. So I cheated there because really, can you say which is the worst out of that huge shit pile of movies?
Absolutely not. And again, our quote unquote rules are pretty freaking lax around here. So you want to cheat, that's fine with me.
And again, it's another situation of a film series. It's so easy. It's a guy with a chainsaw.
Yeah, you'd think. Well, interestingly enough, this little talk helps me preface this by saying that when we're talking about bad sequels, you cannot substitute worst sequels for this. We're talking about bad sequels for us, meaning they disappointed us on some level. So my next one is actually Texas Chainsaw Part 2. Am I saying that it's the worst one? Hell no, I completely understand. What I'm saying is I walked in to Part 2 expecting the tone of Part 1, which was never ending, beat me with that hammer kind of feel to it. And that's what I wanted. I wasn't looking for more comedy. Now, I was talking to somebody, I can't remember who it was, but I was talking to somebody involved in the production, and he said, well, Part 1 has its comedy moments too. I'm still trying to figure out what those were. Comedy moments. I mean, I understand comedic deliveries, but there's no comedy moments, to me at least, in Texas Chainsaw. So for that, it was unrelenting. Just it never stopped. I was hyperventilating when I sat down and watched the first minute or two, and I was doing the same thing at the end. So I wasn't prepared for it, and I think my desire to see it was heightened when I knew that Toby Hooper was doing it again.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, you've got everything there in front of you, and he's making a lighter kind of comedic movie. Mind you, it's certainly more gross than the first one. And I'm not saying that it's a steaming pile. What I'm saying is, for me personally, it let me down a lot. And other people's experiences, are just that, other people's experiences. But my experience was I went in so looking forward to, and I came out going, what? It was like over the top Rambo kind of stuff. I don't mean First Blood. I mean like Rambo.
Yeah, I
It
remember
was that
too.
over the top crap that I never cared about. So again, Rick, I swear to God, I'm not saying, and I think you understand this, I'm not saying by any stretch of the imagination that it's the worst one. I'm saying it personally let me down the most because I wasn't expecting the turn. And in the third one, they go right back to pretty deadly serious again. Um, which, by the way, just want to shout out how much the horror community loves the director of the third one.
Yeah, Jeff Bird definitely had a
Absolutely,
much larger following than people gave him credit for, and so after
absolutely. We
made it known
absolutely,
after he passed away. So it's fair to say with part two, you would say that you based on your criteria, like you said, it just disappointed you. Not that it's a badly made film; it's just not the film that you were expecting or hoping for it
right.
to be.
And if somebody goes in expecting what I was expecting, they might well be disappointed too. That's the only
Yeah,
thing I'm throwing out there. I think these lists are personal because they're supposed to be. You know what I
yeah.
mean? You and I aren't
No, no,
necessarily warning people against the worst thing. Shit, that's easy to do. Look at the box office, look at, this, look at that. It's easy to pick the worst. We're talking about stuff that we find objectionable for whatever reason. And I found the humor in Texas Chainsaw objectionable after the first one, which I just thought again was unrelenting. So that's all I'm
it
saying.
is interesting how people refer to the first one as a comedy at moments because I'm with you. There's no moments in.
It's like,
But that
really?
being said, I don't feel there's a lot of funny in Chainsaw 2 when I saw it as a teenager. I was like, there's no humor. A good portion of it, didn't leave me in total terror, but I was just like, oh wow.
Yeah. And I
I
would
think,
love to have seen it uncut, truly uncut.
yeah, the
Because
original cut of it.
I guess there's some really good stuff in the beginning scene. And I liked the beginning scene, let's go fuck with yuppies kind of, with the corpse and
Mhm.
everything. I thought that was a lot of fun, and but again, it's not what I was expecting. So
Right.
anyway, that's the end,
I know when
end of
I
my
saw it,
lecture.
when I saw it, I got to say the things that I guess I saw it almost like Alien and Aliens in a way. This is just a whole new version of this storyline going on, and just so much of it just clicked with me for whatever reason. Like the IRS soundtrack,
Yep.
with Timbuktu and just Danny Elfman, Oingo Boingo, No One Lives Forever.
Yep.
Just all those things for some reason at my age, at that point, being a teenager, it just clicked terribly.
Right.
And and the actors. I was in love with Dennis Hopper at that time because he was popping up in everything I watched, and to see him as Lefty, just such an interesting character.
Yep.
He literally is like a lone gunfighter in a weird kind of way, to the point where he has holsters for his chainsaws,
Yep.
which I thought was great. Stretch and those shorts. It was just everything in that movie just entertained the hell out of me, and it still had a bleak ending. She's left up
Right.
there doing the Leatherface dance. But I get it. I see where you're coming from. You were expecting that one. And who knows, maybe if Hooper had been able to shoot his original screenplay and not only had all the gore, but the storylines, because there's so many storylines that people never realized were connected together.
Right.
Because you have a subplot where Lefty is actually Stretch's dad.
Right.
And somehow that got exercised, like either during the shoot or shortly before the shoot. I don't know if Canon stepped in and said there's too much drama in your Chainsaw Massacre movie. You need to do something about that. It would have been kind of nice to see those scenes, because I know they did shoot the stuff, because there's certain elements. There's an entire sequence where apparently Lefty tangled with with a bunch of drunkards at the hotel. That's why when Stretch comes to his hotel later, you can see his arm bandaged and he's got like a slight bruise going on.
Right.
So there was quite a bit of that movie cut out, even outside of gore. So, but
Well,
I think
I'm sorry.
no,
You
Nick,
know that I revisit movies that I don't like.
yeah.
And I will certainly revisit this one. I would love, and I'm dead serious when I say this. I would love one day to pop this in the Blu-ray player and enjoy it. I don't need to be right on
You're
this.
like, I get it. I get
I just want to enjoy it, and that was lacking with this. So anyway, sorry for
it.
rambling on, but it just I
Oh,
didn't want
you're
people to
fine.
think that we're picking the worst one. It again very simple for somebody to say, well, there's a hell of a lot worse than part two. Yeah, there are, but none of them let me down like part two because I didn't expect shit from the other ones.
Yeah, that's true. You weren't watching the next generation looking for this will be the movie that will save the entire franchise. I'm
Oh
so
yeah.
excited.
Yeah, and that man, that like with 30 seconds in, there's just no question this is going to be a stink burger, man.
So my next one is a sequel, obviously, to what I think was probably one of the best horror films over the last 20 years, directed by Neil Marshall. The original was, and that's The Descent Part 2.
Yeah,
I was so excited about the prospect of a sequel because I loved the first movie. I
I
thought
did
the
too.
monsters were just so terrifying. I remember Callie was watching it. It was one of the many times I was trying to get her into horror films. The moment that fucking camera went over and you saw the creature right over the girl's shoulder, she was done. Callie's like, "Yep, I'm leaving," and she left the room.
I wasn't far from that. That one scared the crap out of me, and it again a good thing, but it really that shot was so unexpected that that one got me. I mean, I have not been jump scared so badly in a long time, like that did.
See, and what got me about part two was that again, it's that thing of everything that was great in the first one. You guys are just like, well, that's not important, right? It's just monsters. We need the monsters, and we're good. Neil Marshall had no involvement with it. They wouldn't wait for him because he had struck a deal with Universal for his apocalyptic movie over there. Title's escaping me right now, but he wasn't involved. And I think they put his name on producer just because they had to. But it is such a cliched sequel, you know. Your lead character, she's in the hospital. They're like, hey, we need to go back to where you and your friends were because one of your friends just happened to be the daughter of a politician. So we're going to go in and try to find them. A bad aliens ripoff, essentially. And the entire movie, it looks cheap. It's photographed badly compared to the original. The directing is slow. You just don't have any tension. You don't have any of those moments of the first film at all. Absurd storylines where apparently they've been leaving the cave, and it's just bad. You know, every bit of it was just horrible, and rightfully so. It bombed. It bombed tremendously at the box office.
Yep.
I think everything that was so good in that first one, just by word of mouth, people were like, "Don't bother. Don't go to the second one." And again, in the situation, we could have had a trilogy of these movies if done properly. If you really want to do a sequel, get Marshall back, get his crew back, let them make the movie. Don't turn it over to other people who really just have no desire to make a film as strong as the original.
Right. Well, see, that's the other thing. When we're talking about this kind of stuff, it's because we really connected with the first one. Because if we hadn't connected with the first one, who gives a rat's ass about? I don't think I've ever seen a sequel. I may be wrong, but I don't think I've ever watched a sequel to a movie that I hated to begin with. It's like, well, fuck it. Who wants to see another one? So,
Okay.
in a kind of weird way, with these lists we pay homage to the original because The Descent was a damn good, effective horror movie that had a lot of really good things going for it, including darkness and light and the way they played with that. So to put out a crappy, convoluted, let's bring the band back together, but they don't, movie, it's unworthy. And the Descent didn't deserve it.
No. And Neil Marshall, unfortunately, his career just went through ups and downs after that. His Hellboy movie wasn't terribly good. He's done quite a few movies that have gone direct to Shudder, and maybe he's trying to get his vision through on a lower budget, but it just doesn't seem to be happening.
Yeah.
And I never thought his career would go that way, because Dog Soldiers, such a good film. The Descent, such a good, that you see the earmarks of a master.
Yes.
So I'm like, I don't understand what happened. I don't know if it becomes the situation again where cynicism kicks in of, look, I made this quality work and now I can't get anything going. I'll do the best I can. I don't know. It's too bad.
It is. It's a shame. But I agree with you on every point. It's just everything from the first one is not there in the second one. And I think the people who made it will tell you, oh, no, we had no, they didn't. They had what my Italian neighbors used to say, gots. They had gots. Just complete garbage. It's a shame.
Yeah.
Are we moving on?
Yeah, because that's the other thing too. If you notice, there's some movies that are so bad, kind of like an episode of Mystery Science Theater. There's some movies so bad they only have so many jokes.
That you can't slam it because you don't have the words. Speaking of having the words for it, we've got The Exorcist 2, The Heretic.
I was thinking that was going to come up.
Yeah. By the way, and I can't believe I'm doing this, but Scream Factory's DVD of it is kind of brilliant.
Yeah. For a crappy movie, it's an incredible package they put together.
If you're into this movie, or if you hate it enough that you watch it like other people watch Plan 9, this, I don't want to do a commercial, but this is the baby to get, because this even had some interesting shit in it, just not the movie. Wow, what's that sound?
Oh, you could hear our thunder? Wow.
Wow, you're having a thunderstorm there.
We've been having
storms
last 3 or 4 days now.
Wow. And we have,
I guess it was really loud.
We have sunny and 90, God only knows what it is, 97 or some fucking thing like that. Anyway, The Heretic is not the worst movie ever made. It is the most misguided. Well, it's on the list of the most misguided movies. And I understand that Friedkin is tough to come back from. He's a tough follow. But this was not the way to follow it up. There's no guttural feel to it. It's a technical kind of movie where they're trying to figure out what the problem is, yet nobody who was actually in control of the purse strings and the script and everything else, none of them had any control over the actual movie, because what it comes out as a mess. There are other movies that can be like a good stew. There's a whole bunch of shit in it, but it just happens to come together right. This was so the opposite of that. Did it have talented people in front of the camera? Yes, not as much as 3, but yes, it did have talented people. But I just think they were horribly misguided, and probably by a director whose work I have appreciated, but certainly not this time. Borman could have killed the franchise with this, and although we had no idea how 3 was going to be, after I saw this, I truly thought, if nothing else, thank God we'll never have another one. And of course, we ended up with, 114. But The Exorcist is frustratingly bad as you go through there and you say, why is this missing? Why is that missing? Why is it so technically clean when it needs to be a little fucking dirty? I mean, this shit's happening now to a teenage girl. There needs to be something that disgusts me in this. Like, how could Satan do this shit to a kid? Because that's what the first one was. You sat there and you went, this little kid is getting tortured on a minute by minute basis, and that was lacking from this one, and it's a damn shame. Linda Blair is better, deserves better than this, and whether or not Richard Burton was just gliding through the rest of his career, boy, oh boy, this was hideous. And that end, Jesus, I don't even know what to say. It's like you just said about, you're a loss for words. All I'll say is the ending.
From the first cast of The Die, they were making mistakes. Because fine, you couldn't get William Friedkin back. Try to at least get Blatty involved. They circumvented him entirely, thinking that Friedkin was really the reason the first one took off. Not that Friedkin wasn't a huge part of that movie.
Right, but it's a collaboration.
Right, exactly. So go back to him at least. And they go and they just pick the wrong... John Borman flat out said, I hate the original movie. I find it disgusting that it's a movie about a young girl that's tortured. And I don't plan on doing that type of thing. And they're like, okay, we'll do your thing.
Yeah.
So why go with a filmmaker who didn't appreciate the aspects of the first film? My next one is sort of obscure to a point. And it's namely only known due to the fact that it ended up on Mystery Science Theater. And it is Boggy Creek 2, which is one of the few times the original creator of a movie comes back.
Right.
And just gives you a shit fest. And I love Charles B. Pierce. I love Town That Dreaded Sundown. I love The Legend of Boggy Creek so much. I just don't know what he was thinking on the second film. I don't know if it was a situation, again, you can't get any projects rolling, so you just run into this. But it is so opposite of what that original movie was. The only good thing I can say about it is that I had taken Callie to her first convention, which was Horror Find in Maryland. And in our hotel room, we were watching Mystery Science Theater, and they had that episode. And when he's at the computer, Tom Servo chimes in, "You've got Monster." That girl laughed so hard. She was in tears. She was laughing so hard.
I lost my
and
shit.
It just became the thing we would say to make each other laugh throughout the trip. Yeah, you've got Monster. It's just not a fun movie. It's not interesting. It's not scary. Again, thanks to MSD3K, it's become kind of a joke, and it ended up on Vinegar Syndrome recently.
Right.
And an overpriced Blu-ray package to boot.
Which is exactly what you want to do when you've got a piece of crap. Just charge $98 for it or whatever the hell they charge, because the two people who buy it, that's where your money is.
Yeah, there's a couple companies that do that now. They celebrate, mediocrity basically in films. It's like, isn't it great? Because it's so bad, it's good. It's like, shut up.
Yeah, exactly.
So when I was thinking of really bad ones, yeah, that one to me is just one of the worst because it's not even competently made on a visual level. It's not like the way you described Chainsaw Massacre, where you can at least look at Chainsaw Massacre 2 and see it is a well-structured, well-directed horror film. It's just not what you wanted for a sequel. Boggy Creek 2, there's just nothing in it that's redeemable, at all.
Right, but the kind of opposite for you with this one is the fact that you have pleasant memories of the convention and pleasant memories of the fact that Callie was laughing, that kind of thing. So
Right.
if nothing else, we could thank MSD3K for that. Certainly not the movie, but if it was a better movie, would it have been on MSD3K?
That's true. True.
So let's celebrate that, because I got to be honest with you, I have nothing good to say about the movie. I'm trying to have a commentary on your pick, but it was so stupid that it just defies belief. I mean, really, if anybody doubts us, watch the thing. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, but you don't believe us? Go ahead, watch it. Pick out the redeeming qualities of it.
Yeah, the storyline is ridiculous. The creature makeup is not. See, that was the thing. You didn't need to show the creature. We never saw him.
Right.
And we saw his figure. You saw his body. You never saw his face close up. We didn't need that effect going on. It was just, again, I think it was a cash grab. I hate to use that word, but I think he was like, hey, I can get this finance. Somebody will go ahead and release this.
Yep. Yeah, it's a shame. It really is.
Yeah. And I keep thinking there's got to be a way to bring the Legend of Boggy Creek back in a modern day setting. I truly do. And who knows? Maybe we'll crack that nut at some point and try to.
Yeah, I was going to say we shouldn't attempt it here, because then we'll have to trademark the entire thing. But no, you're not far from it. It's a good point. That it is a property that somebody should be doing something with, and certainly did not deserve that part 2. Holy Christmas. And the funny thing is, it doesn't look like anybody from the first one was working on it.
Yeah, but it was the director. That's what got me. I mean, he's in it.
Yeah.
He's in it. He's the leader of this little group of people going out to find the Boggy Creek monster.
Well, let's be honest. If you had read the script, you wouldn't have been in it. So he had to do something.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, second joke from that episode of MSD3K, though. The one character had very short shorts, and it wasn't a chick. It was a dude.
Right.
And Tom Servo was like, those shorts are just way too short, Joel. It's so funny. The part was great. So, but yeah, Boggy Creek 2 is my next one on the fire.
All right. Well, I'm coming back with something I don't even own.
It's like bad ping pong. It's like Boggy
It really
Creek.
is. This is The Fly Part 2.
Wow.
And for various reasons, including that the director should have made a better movie, but because I love Chris.
Yeah, Chris Whaley.
Yeah, but it's similar to The Ring with me. The whole part involving his dog was torture to me.
Yeah.
It goes on way too long, and I just, I've always been a dog person, although I never met a cat I didn't like, but I've always been a dog person, and I was out shooting the last season of Alf, and I'm staying in this little hotel in Sylmar, because when my wife comes with me anywhere, we stay at nice places. When I go alone, I don't give a rat's ass where, as long as I have a bed, a toilet, and a roof over my head. I don't care where I am. So I was at like a Super 8 or something that I remembered in '89. I was renting for the month for $400 or something like that, 300 and change.
Jeez.
And I would just lock up when I left. And that would be it. When we come back, the housekeeper would say, "Oh, you're back." Yeah, I'm back. And okay, I'll start cleaning your room again. So anyway, I was staying in there. I had a VCR, and there's nothing to do in Sylmar. Sorry, Sylmar people. Um, and I watched this, and it was just misery to me. And I'm sure that has to do with the fact that the kid it was playing off of was good enough to make me believe that he was going through the pain of watching his dog changing. But it tore me up, and I was in a good place because I was working, on Alf, and still the movie tore me up. So I can't recommend it. And to me, it's just horrible. And again, I'm not saying that other people will feel the same way, but I got to say, if you're kind of a dog lover, this might not be the movie for you.
Yeah, it was definitely low hanging fruit. They could have found some other way to hit those emotional peaks with the characters.
I would have enjoyed that a lot more.
Yeah, because inherently the story's not bad.
Right.
I like the concept of, well, we can't bring any of the people from the original back, and it's very much like the old Fly movies. We'll have the son of the character kind of a thing. But yeah, just the way they did that with the dog and just certain moments dragged. Wayless as a director definitely redeemed himself with The Vagrant, which is a much better movie.
Absolutely.
I love that flick. Bill Paxton, so good in that flick. So good.
Yep.
But I will say I enjoyed the special effects a lot. This version of The Fly was kind of more of a action adventure kind of version of it, and not as disgusting, looking more, interesting. Like if you made an action figure, you could play with it, kind of a thing.
Right.
Score,
I agree,
is actually really good. The score by Christopher Young, not in the Howard Shore department, very much more of an epic sort of, again, sci-fi action kind of feel. But yeah, I see how this ends up on your list, because it goes back to that thing again. What did you expect out of a Fly movie? And this was, definitely the opposite of it, because you never saw the baboon, get. Well, okay, the baboon did get hurt in the first one, but you never had a pet baboon. You don't have an affinity for pet baboons,
right? And a baboon won't forgive you no matter what you do to it. Dog will, or for the most part, a dog will. So they're the worst fucking victims of shit. And well, anyway,
my favorite part of part 2 though is John Getz coming back.
Yes,
as Snathus. That I did like that. It's very campy. It's very tongue in cheek. It's like I tried to help your father. It cost me an arm and a leg. So that was pretty neat.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. So, all right. So, what do you got for me?
I have, and this one kind of hurts, because there's parts of it. When I saw it, I enjoyed it, and then I got older, and I was like, this is kind of horrible, actually. The Hills Have Eyes Part 2, the Wes Craven Hills Have Eyes Part 2. Now, it's so funny. Every time I watch this movie, I always forget how bad it's going to get, because the open of it, I actually like. I like the fact that, the survivor of the first one owns this dirt bike team, this competitive dirt bike team. And, he can't go out there, through the desert, because he just can't deal with it, because he's got so much stress disorder going on from it. And I keep thinking it's going to go in a different direction. I'm like, oh no, it gets bad. It gets so bad. Ruby, who was a primitive at the end of part 1, is now, a perfectly functioning member of society who can speak English and everything else, which I'm like, okay, I guess I can buy that. It would take her quite a few years, but okay.
Well, time heals all wounds.
Yeah, and language barriers when you can't speak English.
Right.
But once they get to the desert, it turns into a basic, stalk and slash. So many flashbacks in the movie that a dog has a flashback.
Yeah, that's great.
I forget about that every time. I'm like, oh my god, the dog has a flashback. It's so
okay,
bad.
so this must not be one that I've seen then. So
yeah, it's pretty awful.
I think
They
you
bring
remember
Michael
that.
Berryman back, which made no sense because Michael Berryman died in the first one. But it's like, hey, people remember him from the poster, so we'll just bring him back again. It's like, okay,
Right.
whatever. So,
And he's not gonna turn down a paycheck.
Oh no, the score is by Harry Manfredini, who I love him as a composer, but it was like he used the outtakes from Friday the 13th on this thing. It sounded so much like a Friday the 13th score. It was ridiculous.
Wouldn't it be funny if we found out that that's what it is?
Yeah, you never know. He could have been like, "Oh, I got like 90 minutes of music that Paramount turned down. I'm just gonna go ahead and use this. Get paid."
Fuck it. What the hell? I'm getting paid.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely worth watching. Again, if you're gonna look at Craven's work, go ahead and check it out. Just don't expect the insanity of the first one and the intensities of the first one.
Don't expect Wes Craven.
Yeah. This is Wes Craven when he's taking the paycheck, so which he was having to do quite a bit during that time.
Yep, understandable, but it still rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah, with Craven's work, I still want to see his adult movie they did. That's the one I want to see because he directed like 3 of them. And it was being reviewed on F This Movie. They did a retrospective of Wes Craven, and they were able to see it, and they said it was the most bizarre adult film you've ever seen because there is a plot going on about another dimension and all this crazy stuff. And I'm like, oh wow, I need to see that. That's insane. So
yeah, there was and I have to preface this to anybody who doesn't know, but for a very short amount of time, I was a projectionist at a adult movie theater in New Haven, Connecticut. So,
okay.
There was a movie called Night Dreams, something like that, that we were saying, you know what, whoever, I can't remember what name the guy used, but this director and the writer actually knows what the hell they're doing. It had a plot. And it as far as adult movie goes, it was pretty damn good as far as I'm talking about the story. Forget the action. The action never changes. But I was impressed with the filmmaking, and I projected that. I would not be surprised if finding out down the road that one of the things he directed was turned into Night Dreams, because it was decent. Do we have the names of those movies? Is it on the IMDb or probably not?
I would have to go back to that episode, I think is what it was, because he directed them under a pseudonym, obviously. It was when that's how he met Sean Cunningham, actually. It was through adult films. That's where Sean made his money for a little bit too. But we'll dig those up if I can find them in time. We'll put them in the description.
That would I'd be interested in seeing that. Although I keep telling people that I've seen it all, which I did in because of the adult movie theater. And anybody who thinks that they've got something new going, you don't. It's been done before many times. But I still would be curious to the voice that he brought to adult movie or anything.
Yeah.
So
more science.
Exactly.
I'm watching this for research purposes only, I assure you.
Yeah.
We will be watching this for research purposes only.
Yeah, see, that wouldn't work here because I'd be like no. This is research, and they'd say, yeah, okay, great. So get dressed then. So anyway,
The guys who wrote Larry Flint, the Larry Flint movie, the same guys who wrote Man on the Moon and Ed Wood.
yeah.
There was a funny thing in Cinema Fantastique or Cinefantastique where they talked about when they did the research for Larry Flint, they bought like 700 issues of Penthouse.
Oh, Jesus.
And
That's a
or no,
lot.
Hustler. And when they were done, the wives were like, "Get this shit out of the house. You're done with the movie. You're finished." So they went and they put them in the boxes on the curb for
Nice.
the garbage, like 2 days ahead of time.
Oh my god.
And then it disappeared within like an hour. And
Yeah.
they just thought it was funny because they live in a very affluent neighborhood. So they kept thinking about who took them, and they would look at their neighbors like, "I think it was him."
Yeah, right.
Why? He's holding his back in pain from the weight of lifting those things,
God.
or from doing other things. I don't know.
Context clues. Context clues.
So
Well, shockingly enough, we've
I-
gone through our list, haven't we? Or is there still one more?
I still have one left, and we have honorable mention. And my one left is Return to Salem's Lot.
Yeah, I can understand that one. That's one that hurts because of the filmmaker involved and the
Yes.
actor involved.
Yes,
But it is. I will admit, it's not a great movie.
and it's again a damn shame because I view Salem's Lot as a success on every single level. I've never had a TV movie scare me like that. I've never seen jump scares in a TV movie like that. And shit, you can get away with jump scares. There's no blood or anything else, but there's scenes in that movie that I still can't calculate when Barlow's going to be there, and it's just bam, and no matter how much I'm aware of the scene, matter how much my inner clock is counting down to it, it always beats me. So the original is in my opinion, an absolutely wonderful movie, and the second one is just it's Island of the Alive with Salem's Lot involved. It's just
because he shot him back to back. I
Yep.
guess that was the deal that he had with Warner Brothers at the time, that he could do these two movies for one budget, and it shows. Definitely.
boy does it.
Yeah.
It's a real shame. It's a real shabby production, a shabby looking production, and I get absolutely no joy out of saying that because it had some good people behind it. Unfortunately, that didn't translate to the screen.
Yeah, I agree completely on that one. And even Michael Moriarty, an amazing actor, he could only do so much with that material.
Right.
I will admit there's some lines of dialogue that stick out, like when the constable shows up to ask why he's there, and when he's parting ways with him, he says, "You can come back and we can talk." And talk. Yeah, we'll have deep heated debates into the night. So He did what he could with it, and I think that was just, again, Larry Cohen was a hustler, and that's what was great about him as a filmmaker. He got movies made, but it had segued into the late 80s where direct-to-video movies were a lot different. It wasn't like when he was making drive-in films. There, he could just promise a studio, "Hey, I will give you a blaxploitation movie, or I will give you a monster movie by this date. This is how much I'll make, and this is how much you're going to pay me."
Yep.
And the market had changed. The industry had changed.
Yeah, it's a damn shame, but it doesn't take my love of Salem's Lot away. But when they're trying desperately to get the same feel of it, and it looks like the equivalent of a balloon animal, it's like, yeah, that's I'm not buying it. I'm sorry, I'm not going there.
See, that one, I always wonder if they had called it something else and made sure there was no reference to Salem's Lot, if I would enjoy it.
Oh,
It's just
absolutely.
a
I
weird
think so.
vampire movie.
I
Yeah.
think so. I know I would have enjoyed it,
Right.
but not when you're attaching that name to it.
But there's no taking It's Alive 3 away. Island
No.
of the Alive.
No, that people deserve to be hurt by that. And I don't mean people who aren't involved. I mean people who were involved.
It's just because Larry Cohen, I met him. He was a really nice guy. We met him at a film festival.
Yep,
And,
lovely man. Yep.
I think if I was on his production team, I would have been like, the world doesn't need a full size It's Alive baby into an adult. We don't need that. It's going to look horrible. Don't do this. It was the worst suit ever. It was so bad.
I know. And
who? Karen Black. Poor Karen Black was in that movie.
Do you happen to remember who did the effects? Was it Berman Studios or someone?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. So it wasn't untalented people, but when you have $20, you have $20. That's it. You know.
Okay, so you and I are not going to agree on the talented people line. All righty. All right. So am I?
It did have a very good theme song. I'll give it that. It had a really great opening theme song that I loved so much as a teenager. When I saw it, I put my radio next to it and recorded the audio just of the song because I like the song so much. The theme from the movie. So
that little line and $5 will get you a coffee.
Yeah, pretty much. Actually, not today, probably.
Well, that's true. Okay,
if it's
so
black.
Well, yeah, that's true.
So my honorable mention of worst sequel goes back to the Halloween series again. Halloween Resurrection, which is no big epiphany. Everybody hates that movie, even diehard Halloween fans. Well, it's amazing because you had Rick Rosenthal, the director of Part 2, of the original Halloween 2. It seemed to make sense. It's like, okay, you're bringing him back. It's a shitfest. It's horrible. It's dated like no tomorrow.
Oh yeah,
because of its internet influence. You know, live streaming from the Michael Myers house. And I'm sure Busta Rhymes is a fine gentleman. I'm sure I could sit there and talk about numerous things.
Yeah, we could have a beer, we could share a joint, but the bottom line is, woof. Jesus.
You ain't Michael Myers, I'm Michael Myers.
Oh my God.
That was the point where I was like, you guys do not care. You have just taken this symbol of evil and horror and you have him chewed out by Busta Rhymes. And he walked away.
Oh,
from story logic that makes no sense. He's like, okay, you told me to go away. Michael Myers serial killer is now going to go away. And I'm just like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, it's pretty bad. So here's my take on seeing the movie. I did go to the theater. I've been to the theater for every single one of them, including the last three. I've only managed to skip two theater-wise, and I think we know which two those are. But anyway, it was a woman, when the movie started, a woman immediately got on her phone. And mind you, this is one of those kind of large phones because that's how they made them back then. And she had a conversation. She and I were the only two people in the theater. And at one point I turned around and I'm talking about maybe 30 minutes in, the conversation's still going on, like she's in her living room. And I finally turned around and I said, do you mind? Could you take that outside? And she held up her hand and she said, I'm trying to have a conversation on the phone.
Oh no.
And I went, what? I then have it out the fucking door. Don't have it in the fucking theater. And she's, oh, I can't believe how rude you are. And you're interrupting and this, that. So anyway, and then I proceeded to watch the rest of Halloween Resurrection, which kind of made me, kind of made me miss her phone conversation a little bit, because at least it was interesting. But nothing in the movie makes any kind of sense. They have a scene where, what's her face, the model, Tyra Banks.
Tyra Banks, yeah.
Okay, Tyra Banks falls through the floor into the basement, and they show a shot of that basement, and she's walking all through the basement. That basement must be roughly the same as the basement of the Paris Opera House. It goes on for miles. I don't know where the fuck they actually shot it, but they didn't shoot it in any house I've ever been in. It just, there literally are shots over her shoulder. You can't see the other wall. It's so far away. And again, she's supposed to be doing it in this fairly small house. And it's like, okay, all right, I'm done. Thank you. Check, please. I just can't go there. So
Yeah.
anyway,
I mean, not that H2O was, anything to write home about. I still don't care for that one either, even to know it does have Jamie Lee Curtis in it.
Right.
But then you follow it with Resurrection, and you're just like, holy shit! Talking about hold my beer. Yeah, they did that easily with that one.
It was so rough. It really was. It was sad.
You know what's sad is when you listen to the commentary for the Blu-ray, and you hear Rick Rosenthal talking, and he really thought he made just art. He's talking about deleted scenes and everything else, and I get it. Okay, you're older now, you're a director, and you want to talk about your stuff with some bit of reverence, but good God, man.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you want to talk about something with reverence, just don't make it that movie.
Yeah, go back to something else you did.
Anything else. Sanka commercial, Depends commercial, something like that, absolutely, but do not talk about that movie. I wish I had. I wrote a review of it the second I came out of the theater, and posted it on. It might have been the Horror, because I was doing work for them back then, and they don't have it. I don't have it, but it was one of my finest reviews because I was pissed. So there was a ton of things that equal out to, and another thing, and another thing, and another. I mean, I was like I was scolding somebody. So yeah, it just got on my last fucking nerve. But the woman having a phone conversation. Oh, by the way, I never said it. During the end credits, she hung up. It was the entirety of the movie that she's just talking on the phone. And of course, she's sitting about in the center of the theater, so you can't get away from her any farther in any direction. I did sit behind her, hoping that the sound would go that way while I was going that way, but it was, oh God, it was terrible.
Did she end up in your review?
Believe it or not, no. I wanted to, but I couldn't think of anything to say that didn't sound that. You know what? I couldn't think of anything to say that didn't include words that you're not supposed to say.
There you go.
That maybe begin with the letter C. I don't know. Just as an example. So yeah, it was just so bad. I was just so angry at the whole thing. I was angry at the world that day. So anyway, yes, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was going to bring up my honorable mention, but if you have something to add, please do.
No, I was just going to get at the point of find it really amazing how studios who are so obsessed with IP, that's the catchphrase for all these things now. The fact that they can't get it right to make money on anything any longer,
right?
The way they used to. And it's been going back so long because the Weinsteins were in charge of it at that point.
Right.
And we all know how the Weinsteins were. But I think the one thing you can't deny was at one point they knew how to make money. They knew how to make product that would get them their investment back. And it's just wild that they would argue with Wes Craven on every single Scream movie that he made for them.
Yep.
But then somehow he let them go off and make Halloween Resurrection.
Yeah.
I don't understand that dynamic. It's like, what gave Rick Rosenthal and this horrible screenplay somehow an edge to where, oh, you don't have to bother them, let them do what they're doing.
Could it be a version of the second child syndrome where the first child, you send them out in the snow and they can't even move because of all the clothes they have on, and then the second child, you basically send them out in a pair of shorts because, well, we've been through this before, we're cool and everything will be fine. My brother had no rules. I had 1,000.
Right.
I'm wondering if, and I hate to say they might have learned, or they thought they learned something, but maybe they thought they learned something with Wes and decided to, yeah, you know what, we need to lighten up a little bit, and decided to waste that quality shit on the guys from the Halloween Ends bullshit.
Well, Resurrection killed it until Rob Zombie's Halloween.
Yep. And again, Rob Zombie's Halloween is not the worst movie ever made. It's not even the worst Halloween, because of course of the past 2 years or 3 years, but it's certainly, in my opinion, misguided, hugely misguided. And his Halloween 2 was just, it's a carnival ride with drunk people on it. It's just,
so did you walk out of the first Rob Zombie one going, there is no way anyone can make a film as bad as that in the Halloween series? Cut to you in 2018.
Stupidly, well, no, cut to me on his Halloween 2.
Yeah.
So yeah, basically, I learned that it went downhill from his Halloween, which if you had ever told me it was going to go downhill from his Halloween, I would have said, you're out of your fucking mind. Because the only thing his Halloween didn't have is a banjo soundtrack. But Jesus, I mean, really. Anyway, so are we going to go with my
your dishonorable mention?
Dishonorable mention? Okay. This changed. So you don't even have this change because it just changed literally over minutes.
Okay.
It was going to be part 3. And it was going to be part 3 because I loved part 1 and 2. And I know there are a ton of people who have a huge problem with part 2, but I loved part 2, part 1, but Back to the Future part 3 to me was just, okay, so what haven't we done yet? Well, we haven't done Western. It just didn't work in, but that's no longer my dishonorable discharge, because I had completely forgotten Feast 2 and 3.
Oh,
Thank you.
Feast is a wonderful movie. Feast. It's like horror on acid and speed at the same time. It's hysterical. Some of the shit that happens in it is absolutely hysterical. There's things in there violence-wise that I have never, not only didn't I see, I don't think I ever dreamed of. And with everything else, you get Clu Gulager for the entirety of the movie, damn near. So it's wonderful. And I talked to John Gulager on numerous occasions, and I told him Out and Out Feast was one of the most fun movies I've ever been in. And he said, well, we're doing part 2 and 3 at the same time. I said, that's fantastic. I said, I'm so glad to know that. Are you handling? Oh yeah, I'm on it. Okay, great. So the creative team is together. People, the actors, or some of the actors at least, are together. And I sat there. I didn't see it in the theater. because I honestly don't think.
I don't think it got a theatrical release.
Yeah, I
even
don't
when
think a theater owner on the planet, even if the mafia threatened them, would show them. But those two movies are bad in every way that Feast was good.
Mhm.
And if you had told me that somebody else did them and shit on John Gallagher's Feast, I would believe it before I would believe that John shit on his own. Beautiful movie, because that first one, boy, that was dynamite.
So
it really was.
Oh, absolutely. And of course it was made, through Project Greenlight. And of
Right.
course on that particular season, like any reality show, they had to have drama. So they made it to where John Gallagher was like a buffoon. And he really wasn't,
No.
He was a master of his craft is what he was.
Yep.
But so part 2 and 3, those came out, if you remember, on video at the same time, which was unheard of.
Right.
For that to happen. And this was in my days of HVAC, and the gentleman I was working for sent me to North Carolina, and he was very cool because he was like, you can have, anything you want, just get my stuff done. You can have any meal you want. I'll pay for it. So I called him and I said, well, I've got the company credit card. I'm at Walmart right now. There's 2 movies I want to watch. I'm away from my wife and kids. Is it cool if I buy these? Yeah, he makes the joke. He's like, those type of movies? I'm like, I'm at Walmart. They don't have those type of movies. And I'm like, they're horror movies. So for $20, I buy Feast 2 and 3 separate movies. And I'm excited. I'm like, I got a pizza. I got Feast 2 and 3. Get through part 2. And I'm just like, that was really bad. And then I look at the cover of 3 and I'm like, maybe they redeemed themselves on the third one. And then you get to the third one and it ends with a giant fucking robot. And you're just like, what? I don't get this. How did it come to this? Why did it come to this?
Yep.
Mariachi singers. It is. It's
so basically
it's on the roof.
Yeah. So basically what ends up happening is that you, in essence, compared your wife and your children to Feast 2 and 3.
Yeah, that's my memory of Feast 2 and 3.
I don't have them, so I'll get Feast 2 and 3. Boy, there's a trade-off. Yep. It's just
part 3, baby. Part 3. Okay, remember the scene in Tremors where a good portion of the movie is them on Bert's roof? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
That was so fun, right? Because somehow they're trapped on a roof, but you're just still enthralled and interested. Yeah, they did that and just fucked it all up with Feast 3. They're like, oh, well, we can do like Tremors. It'll be on there. Yeah, but I hate your characters. I hate your storyline. There's no fun in any of this. It's just... And it's the same writers, too.
It's the same everything.
Everybody. And I'm just like, I don't understand the catalyst for it. I don't know if the Weinsteins were like, we want it to be funny. We want it to be a cult movie. I don't know.
I enjoyed the first one.
Oh, yeah, the first
one's the first one's insanity. And it's but it's wonderful insanity.
Yes.
And the second and third one just made me want to hurt people. And again, John is a sweetheart. John is in the Jewish religion, they call him a mensch. He's just a wonderful guy, a thrill to talk to. But I have not spoken to him since Feast 2 and 3. And I would I'd have a problem coming up with something to say, except for the possibility of me being kind enough to acknowledge them as movies. So
I think I would just keep maintaining. I really love Feast. What do you think about the others? I love Feast. It's such a good movie.
Love Feast.
See, and he's another director, man, just kind of shut out of the conversation. He didn't get to do a lot after that, except that movie for Sci-Fi Channel called Zombie Night.
Because
looked like a Sci-Fi Channel movie.
Because he directed Feast 2 and 3.
Yeah, I know.
But why didn't he know See, that's the problem. If he knew, he wouldn't have done it.
I don't think he was under contract, but I think maybe he just wasn't getting offers, and
horrible. It's a shame. Anyway, well, that appears to do it.
That concludes our sequels.
I think we beat
Volume
the hell
2.
out of sequels. Yep, I think we beat the hell out of sequels.
I think every single one that we threw on the fire was well worth the burning. Definitely.
Couldn't agree more.
And in fact, on another episode, we should probably do movies that should have gotten sequels. Would be a great one, because there's plenty of wonderful movies that deserved it and never got it.
Orca.
No, not Orca.
No Orca. No Orca 2. No Orca 3. The Spawning. Nothing.
Well,
Piranha 2. That was one of my stinkers.
Oh yeah.
Again, there were so many bad movies. I was just like, man, which one to pick?
Yep, Piranha 2.
Bye, Rich. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yep.
Catch you on the next go round.
Okay.
The other thing about Beast 2 and 3 is it's very much like a Greek fairy tale that was.
Shake! Thank you so much for joining us, guys. Had lots of fun. Don't forget to check us out on the next episodes that we have. Bye.